Christmas is a very fun and joyous event. A whole bunch of people from all over the world celebrate it by listening to Christmas-themed music, watching Christmas-themed movies, and eating Christmas-themed food. And while not every person on the block tends to celebrate Christmas, there sure is a lot of stuff that is Christmas-themed out there. One movie that I like to watch every year is Home Alone. It's a classic for me. Lots of great comedy, suspense, and a pretty damn good score. But one thing that a lot of people don't tend to recognize is that Home Alone has a lot of video games. And while most of them suck, in fact, the bulk of them suck, there is one Home Alone game that actually stands out on its own. Home Alone for the Sega Genesis. This title stands out above all the other Home Alone games I have ever played. The game starts off with Kevin from the movie in a motorized sled on his home street. From this open world area, Kevin is free to explore the whole neighborhood while knocking down snowmen and collecting items that will come into use later on. But most notably, you can enter any of the 5 houses on the street. Harry and Marv, the wet bandits who are the villains in the movie, drive their van into the neighborhood shortly after the game begins and pick a house at random to rob. Your goal as Kevin is to defend the houses on the street long enough for the police to show up. And depending on what difficulty you choose, the time ranges from 20 minutes on the beginner level to 40 minutes on the expert level. Defending the houses is pretty straightforward. Cause the bandits enough pain before they have collected all the loot from a house. Once they've hit their maximum threshold for pain, well, they'll leave the house in disgrace, driving out of the neighborhood for a short while until a little bit later on when they return to rob another house. But how do you inflict pain? Well, this is where the game gets fun. Each house in the neighborhood can be entered at any time, but if you enter the house before the bandits do, you can set up traps, just like in the movie. The traps range from tripping hazards to blowtorches hooked on door frames, and even tar that reduces the walking speed of the bandits ever so briefly. All of the traps besides the blowtorch can harm Kevin, but if you're good enough, you can jump to avoid them. Unlike the bandits, Kevin doesn't have a pain meter or even a health bar. When the bandits catch you, they simply hang you up on a hook, leaving you to wiggle free. There are no lives, and really the only way to lose is to let the bandits loot and flood every house. And if a house ever gets flooded, you can never go back in. The houses have a selection of items that you can collect, much like the items you find inside the snowmen from outside in the neighborhood. These items can be combined to create weapons in a crafting menu. That's right, Home Alone on the Sega Genesis from 1992 has one of the first weapon crafting menus ever made in a video game. Each weapon can be assembled using a selection of 3 items. Once combined, the weapon can be used to attack the bandits, and if you run out of ammo or simply get bored of using that weapon, you can disassemble it and use the parts to build something else. However, I never really found myself doing this, cause even on expert difficulty, there's always seemed to be enough parts to build almost anything I wanted. But you will find yourself in many situations where there will be sparse ammo. So I planned to stock up between robberies and avoided wasting shots, or otherwise I wouldn't have been able to defeat the bandits in time. One of the more interesting things about the game is its difficulty modes. There are more traps and items in expert difficulty compared to beginner. Because of this, I really recommend playing the game in beginner mode first and then going on to expert mode. Once you've done that, well, the game can be a lot more fun that way. Each house is unique, offering different layouts and changes that make exploring them very fun. Kevin's house, the mansion, just like in the movie, has Buzz's pet spider roaming free. If Kevin or the bandits walk close to the spider, it will drop down from the ceiling and stun them. Almost every house offers some kind of random feature like the spider. There's a ghost in the colonial house who electrocutes people if they get too close. And in the modern house, there's a roaming robot who'll shock people. And in the country house, there's a cat who will temporarily hold you in a single spot until you can shake it off. The old house's unique feature is its floors. They will break in certain spots if you walk over them too often. None of these really change the way you lay traps, but they add some variety that makes it just a bit more fun to play. One of the only 2 problems I had with the game was the motorized sled having a battery that quickly drains out. The sled will continue to move even with no charge, but it's super slow. It didn't seem to do anything other than serve as an irritating problem that I knew I would have to face closer to the time limit. The second problem this game has? Well, it's a bit repetitive. Once you've used up all your traps in expert mode, you can find yourself in a situation where you do nothing but fire at the bandits, who will be stunned from the attack for a short while, and then you have to fire again once they snap out of it. It's kinda just that loop over and over again near the end of the game. I would have appreciated some more depth into these events, but for everything else that this game is doing right, it's kind of a small issue, especially when compared to other terrible Home Alone games that came out at the same time. What you see here is a pretty good title, unique to the Sega Genesis, and also the Game Gear, but that version has some changes due to the system's limitations. If you're gonna play any Home Alone game, the Sega Genesis version is the one to play. Well everybody, that's Home Alone. It might not be the best game in the world, but it certainly is a game that I enjoy playing. And if you're a fan of Home Alone the movie, well, this game's probably up your alley. Anyway, that's about all we have today. Happy holidays everybody, and see you next year. Shh, snow from After Effects.